Go to the phones. Michael is in Bury and he has given us a call on 0344 499 1000. Michael, you're very welcome. You're on with me and you're on with Emma and Matthew. What would you like to say?
Hi, Peter. You cut us off last week before I could get my point across, but I'd just like to say to this Matthew Hulbert, come and work a day with me, Matthew, right? And you'll see how difficult it is driving on motorways. It's like driving in Pakistan, right, where everybody just drives everywhere they want to drive. It doesn't matter what kind of rules that we have in place in our country. They don't want to live right the way we live. I mean, you're going to be a bigger drain on the NHS than I'll ever be, son. Right?
That's not a nice thing to say, Michael. Why would you say that?
Hang on a second, right? I've been overweight as well, Peter, right? I'm 56.
What's that got to do with anything?
What? Pardon?
What's that got to do with anything? Why would you say that? Well,
because he's going to be a drain on the
Sorry,
NHS.
Michael. No, I don't like the way this call is going. Sorry, Michael. Sorry. I just think that's a personal attack for absolutely no reason. Can we bring Michael back for a second?
I find a personal attack, right? The fact that we're all called racists.
Matthew didn't call you racist. He didn't do that.
Michael, can I say to you that last year I lost my mum in very trying circumstances that I've talked about on this network before.
Yeah, I lost my brother.
And yeah, so listen, mate, please. And there's a lot involved in being overweight, including emotional eating, and I won't deny that this past year, as part of my coping mechanism, even though I appreciate it's damaging to my health and I hope to do more about it next year, I have emotionally ate, and that has allowed me to end up in this situation. But I'm afraid that's because I lost my mum after she waited 11 hours for an ambulance because this government can't sort out ambulances. So don't you come on air and have a go at me about my weight.
Michael, do you want to make a point about immigration, and do you want to make it respectfully? Because I don't want to cut you off. I want to hear what you have to say, but I also want you to make a point respectfully. Do you want to make a final point, and then we'll go to another caller?
Right, I do want to make a final point. It's very difficult for me now with immigration, for me to work the way I work, paying me taxes and everything, when I'm working against people who don't pay tax, don't do their jobs properly, drive anywhere they want on the motorways, right? Do whatever they want, park anywhere they want. I park my van, right, respectfully. I don't park on corners and things, right? I find now that that you can't do anything properly.
Okay.
Because what you have to do is you have to come down to the level that these other people are operating at.
Okay, Michael, thanks for your point. I think you've made your point there, and appreciate that. Daniel is in Epsom. Daniel, what point would you like to make?
Morning, guys. I think Matthew's way out of line with the majority of British voters. I think most people realise, if you're old enough, if you can remember the country before 97, I think most people realise we've had far too much immigration of all kinds for far too long. And I think most people have come to that understanding. If you think that in 1951 the census said that we were 98.8% Christian, white, and spoke a first language was English, in less than one man's lifetime, we've seen quite significant and stark change. And I think there's a fair chunk of the majority of the population are living in a country they didn't really want or ask for. And I think it's...
Let me put that point. I want to bring in Emma Revel as well.
Hang on, Peter. I think also in the past 6 or 7 general elections on the doorstep, one of the top 3 topics has been immigration. We've imported FGM, honour killing, sham marriage, suicide bombing, the full veil, grooming gangs. We've got violent black gangs in our towns and cities, stabbing and shooting now.
Okay.
I'm 46. I grew up in London, and London didn't used to be like that.
Okay. Well, I want to talk to Angela, who is in North Yorkshire, who's given me a call on 0344 499 1000. Angela, you're very welcome to the programme. I gather you have some thoughts on the COVID inquiry and what we were talking about a little bit earlier in the programme.
I do. Thank you, Peter. Very nice to talk to you.
And you too. What would you like to say?
Well, it was really, I wanted to make a comment that Dr. Rennie had talked about. I mean, lockdowns, we just don't know the answer to that, in my opinion. It's a very emotive subject. And it is emotive for a lot of people for lots of different reasons. I would really have liked to ask the question about how should we be protecting the vulnerable better in the future? And I would hope that the COVID inquiries would actually focus on that. I'm not sure they are doing that at the moment. I speak as a person with long COVID for 43 months and have reacted badly to the vaccines as well. So for some of us, you know, there are about 2 million of us in this country, I really do believe it's important. I've had to force myself myself to watch these because I need to know how decisions are taken in this country. I needed to know what happened and when. I probably didn't want to know all the gory details because actually it's very upsetting for a lot of people.
Of course. Do you feel you're getting any... Sorry to interrupt you, Angela. Do you feel you're getting any answers at the moment, or do you think the answers are still to come, or do you think they'll ever come?
Well, I actually feel that the questions are not being put in the right way.
I totally agree.
Because I think that there's a whole pile of written evidence that's already been presented and, has gone the rounds, basically, and people have spent hours on it. Yeah. And we have KCs here, actually, who I'm a trained interviewer, and I wouldn't have asked questions like that. I would have asked very direct questions.
I agree with you. I mean, Hugo Keith, KC, is the lead counsel for the inquiry. He is one of the top barristers in this country, and I find myself just shouting at the TV. He's so. I personally, I'm sure he would disagree with this. I don't want him to sue me, but I find him incredibly patronising. I find he asks really, very, very basic and sometimes quite silly questions. Right, Angela, you're a trained interviewer. You're at the COVID inquiry. Boris Johnson's in front of you. What's the one question you want to ask him?
Did you really believe that people over a certain age should be allowed to die with any treatment or care and compassion? Yeah. I think that would go to the heart of a lot of it for a lot of us. I'm obviously still alive. A lot of people are not, and the whole situation of the care homes and things like that. And I do really feel that they're not questioning the right things. We did have a representative of the long COVID action group there, and actually I felt that his questioning was much more direct and to the point. When I looked at all of this,
how does long COVID affect you, Angela? How does it affect your daily life?
It's taken most of my life away from me because I still need to self-isolate because unfortunately having the AZ vaccine as well has damaged me, and it's brought back all my ME and chronic fatigue problems as well. So I'm actually susceptible to any virus, not just the COVID one. So for me, I'm just having repeated infections and my immunity doesn't have a chance to catch up. So, I don't really do things very much in public now, and I'm not that kind of person. I don't sing in groups or in public anymore. I've not been able to work in my chosen profession of mental health for 4 years. But, I'm alive and I'm getting on with it, Peter, because a lot of people haven't, and I've lost friends. And I don't ever want to go to a Zoom funeral ever again, thank you. So, it's debilitating, but I speak up for everyone else because, we need care, compassion, but we need to tell people that these viruses are airborne, and we need people to understand that, that's sometimes why we do wear masks. And I'm sorry, but it isn't acceptable in society generally, but we have to protect ourselves.
Angela, sorry.
Really important point.
Go for it.
Great to talk to you. Thank you very much.
Angela, thank you. Wish you well. Robert, what point would you like to make to us both?
Thank you for calling, Peter. I spoke to you before, I think.
I remember, Robert. Yeah. What would you like to say?
My point is a group of us pensioners between 70 and 80, and we talk about experience going back years. I was in the Navy years ago. Now, the thing is, in the 1930s, I know it's a long, long time ago, Britain, under the Tories, was sleepwalking. Britain was sleepwalking. And they allowed the Germans to do all the things they shouldn't have been doing, and we get away with it. Now, from 2020 onwards to this day, the Tories are doing the same thing. They're sleepwalking. They know what's going on, but they're doing nothing about it. The same as the 1930s.
Well, let's put that point.
That's the question, Peter.
Let's put that point to Sam in just a second, Robert. I want to talk to Ruby briefly first as well. Ruby, you're very welcome to the programme. What would you like to say?
Hi, Peter. Well, I, as you know, have called you before, and I worked in the hospitality business for many years, which incidentally gave me the opportunity to meet Mr. Terry Venables and other famous footballers. But let's leave that. I'm calling because the last 14 years of my working life, so to speak, before I retired, I worked for a housing association, a small housing association, where we had people from many countries. Some were actually, they had a label on their records as refugees. Now, some didn't even speak English. And what happens about the integration that Mr. Jenrick talks about is because all these migrants bring up the children the way they were brought up in their countries. They hardly speak the language, some of them, especially women. They, when they grow up, have their own channel TVs via cable.
Sorry to interrupt you, Ruby. Sorry to interrupt you, Ruby. Am I correct? Now, this is going back to the last call that you rang me on. I might have got this wrong, but are you from Peru?
Yes.
Ah, excellent. My memory has not failed me. So,
no.
do you have children, Ruby, if you don't mind me asking?
I have a daughter, I have a granddaughter.
So how did you bring them up in a different way? Did you consciously say, we want you to integrate with this country, we want you to speak English, you clearly have perfect English? How did you approach that?
Absolutely. The first thing for me, what it was important was able to communicate. And so I learned to speak English. Well, I studied English at school, but, to learn to speak
it's different, isn't it? Yeah.
Matter
Okay.
To enable you to work.
Yes.
And then as soon as I could, as I said before, I came February 71, March 71 I was working.
So you are an immigrant to this country, Ruby, but you're someone who's taken, you think anyway, a slightly different attitude to how some immigrants take when they come to this country. Is that a fair characterization?
It is. And recently, which was shocking, I was at my hairdresser's and a Middle Eastern girl had her hair done. And would you believe it? The partner came to pay for the hairdo. She was not even allowed to have money of her own.
Really? Goodness me. Well,
this is a few months ago.
Ruby,
and as I said, children that grow up, brought up like, I don't know, whichever country their parents come from, it takes them a while to integrate. And for the parents, it's very painful when the children want to break away from their own traditions.
There's lots going on there. Ruby, thanks for your call and thanks for your insight. I think I said this before, but Ruby, you're my second favourite migrant from Peru after Paddington Bear. Steve is in Scunthorpe and has given me a call on 0344 499 1000. Steve, I think it's refugees you want to talk about.
Yeah, the people coming over on the boats, or mainly middle-aged men or young men. And your barrister said that they're escaping persecution and victimisation. What about all the women and children? From what I've seen, the countries these people are coming from, women get the bad deal.
Yeah.
And if we get men like that coming here, leaving the women behind, then those men I do not want in this country.
Yeah, well, their women may even be in a worse position because the men aren't there to help them. They're not there to be a family unit and so on. I think that's a very good point, Steve. There are, of course, people who are perfectly legitimate and genuine and are granted asylum, but there are absolutely people on those boats who are extracting the Michael. There's no doubt about it, Steve.
That's right. And when you said about Moss, what's wrong with Moss? Now, we've just had the thing about all the imams going on about wiping out Israel.
Yep, and that's disgraceful. Yeah,
and that is a very good reason.
It's not every imam though. It's not. You can't.
No.
Yeah. Okay.
But, but children are taught in school these things, anti-Israeli or anti-Jewish.
It's a massive problem, Steve, and it's just getting bigger as well. Anti-Semitism in this country is horrendous. We're actually talking about it a bit tomorrow as well. Steve, thank you for your thoughts. John is in Bradford and is on the line. John, what would you like to say today? You're very welcome to the programme.
Hi. Well, it's regarding immigration. There's a number of issues which, I want to discuss. The first one is the fact that people in this country are not encouraged to speak English. You go into hospitals, they have translators there, they have it printed in numerous languages, which basically doesn't encourage people to learn English.
It also costs a lot of money to have those interpreters there as well, John.
I did one of the hospitals, and I was shocked at the amount of money it costs for these translators. The next thing is that people coming into this country, they don't accept the British way of life. They want us to change to their way of life, and this is another problem. And what worries me is if they only have to look over in the continent now, you look at Sweden, you look at Finland, you look at Denmark, you look at Holland, you look at Italy, all these right-wing parties are getting in, and the politicians here really need to smell the coffee, because if it carries on like this, I dread to think what's going to happen down the line.
I think you make some really good points, John. Thank you very much indeed, John and Bradford there. David is in Glasgow. David, I think it's the COVID inquiry you want to talk about. Is that correct? You're very welcome to the programme.
Yes, hi Peter. Hope you're well today.
Very well, thanks, yeah.
Good. Yes, the COVID thing's absolutely fascinating, because what it shows is an insight to how government works. Yeah,
and it's not a very nice insight. It's an interesting insight, but it's not a particularly edifying one, is it, David?
Exactly. And when you tie that into the COVID or into any disease-type pandemic that we've had, it's not a very compatible situation. We have to understand that Boris Johnson came from the point of the Brexit situation, was brought into government to get Brexit done, as it were. And what he done was he aligned himself with all sorts of advisors. That was his approach, let the advisors advise and run the show effectively. But the problem with that scenario is what we see in the COVID inquiry is we then run into the pandemic scenario with COVID. And I have to give a lot of credit actually to Mark Hancock, because again the evidence that was shown in there was that by January time he was getting a grip of the situation. He was chairing Cobra meetings, etc.
Do you think Matt Hancock has been unfairly blamed for a lot of this? Now, in fairness, Boris Johnson didn't blame him, said he was doing as good a job as he could, but lots of other people have had a three-word strategy: blame Matt Hancock.
Yeah, he's been totally the scapegoat, because again, if you look at the evidence, he was chairing Cobra meetings regularly, speaking to advisors, all sorts of. He was there at the coalface at almost the very start. Whereas Boris Johnson was absent. Mm-hmm. He was just waiting for his advisors, i.e. Dominic Cummings, to advise him what the situation would be, and there would be conversations going on in the background, and Boris Johnson would nothing. I mean, if you look at the whole kind of timeline to the whole thing, I mean, it was really, I would say about the 16th of March, when the PM actually started to say we should have non-contact. And then by the 23rd, that was when he said, okay, and as all the experts have said, the Prime Minister should have been dealing with that in February. That's the decisions that he should have made in February. There's a lot of argument for not actually having a lockdown.
We've debated that this morning. We've talked about that. I mean, what do you think of that?
Well, yes. I mean, this is what the scientists were saying, that lockdown per se probably has more damage than what it needs to have done. And I think if Boris Johnson, as the leader, as the Prime Minister, had been in the kind of same shoes as Matt Hancock by January and sort of said, right, let's slow this thing down, let's reduce the contact, let's do all these measures. But he didn't do that. He just ignored the whole thing until it got to, as I say, about the 16th of March, and then realised that the political moverings, the political events that were going on, just weren't working. Yeah. And the only option he had in his bag was his lockdown.
Yeah, and David, there's a lot in that. We need to get the proper answers on that. Thank you, David. Appreciate your thoughts on that, David in Glasgow there. Leslie's been in touch on the points about the postal service. I think postage is a fair price, says Leslie. Think of the journey from the postbox, sorting office, transport, and then more sorting to delivery. It's a bargain, says Leslie, standing up for Royal Mail there. Sam is in Belfast. Sam, you've given us a call on 0344 499 1000. What would you like to say?
Good morning to you, Peter, from rainy Belfast.
Gosh, I was there yesterday, Sam, and it was grim.
Yes, it still is grim today. I was wanting actually to put a question to the barrister chap, Sam, that you had on, but he's gone, I believe.
He is, but tell us what your question would have been there, Sam.
It would have been on the subject of the illegal immigration, right? One general question, the subject, will all the illegal immigrants be removed from Britain at some point in time? Adding to that, the question, when they're assessing those who are coming and claiming political asylum because of persecution in their country of origin, how on what basis will they be assessed? On political difficulties, persecution because of that, religious, or I understand, I've heard that there's a large number of them claiming to be homosexual. And I suppose my question would have been to Sam is, how would you be able to assess the validity of that claim?
Yeah,
and that's probably digging a bit deeper into the whole.
No, it's interesting you mentioned that, actually, because I know I've a few friends who've tried to get citizenship in America, for example, and some of the incredibly elaborate kind of things that you have to do. I mean, my particular friend is from Lebanon, as is her husband. And they had to prove they were married. And it wasn't enough to say, here is a wedding certificate. They had to show wedding photos. They had to show photos of them, from over the years, and their dated things that said they were together from a certain period, that he proposed at a certain time, that they were legally married and that they had stayed married, and this wasn't a sham and so on. And that weight of evidence really needs to be there, Sam, doesn't it?
Yes, it does, and I have no confidence in the government that they would give the appropriate scrutiny and to suss this here out, because it's probably one of the easiest thing to say, look, I'm gay, I'm persecuted, so do we just say, right, rubber stamp, come on in?
Well, it just needs to be a proper system, Sam. It really does, and it isn't at the moment. Listen, thanks for your call. Really appreciate it, Sam.
No problem.
Thanks. Good to talk to you. You're on the air. What would you like to say?
Oh, hello, Peter. It's a pleasure to talk with you. Yeah, regarding the BBC issue, it gets a bit tiresome. We get these former BBC employees speaking up. Well, of course, they've got skin in the game because they're already receiving a pension, haven't they? So they don't want the tap to be shut off.
Well, I mean, there are critics of the BBC who've worked for it. I mean, Roger Bolton's been quite critical. He used to work for the BBC. Michael Crick, who's been on this programme, has been quite critical of the BBC as well. I mean,
Yeah, I know, but, they should declare their interest, should they? But, I think there was a report, is it 2022? I think there was a review. I was watching something last night. Apparently, the subscription model was rejected in the report. Well, that speaks its own truth.
I don't know what you think. Ian, I'd be interested in your thoughts on this. There are some BBC programmes. I quite like the sort of iTunes model where, if you like a song, you can pay like 99p for a song or 79p for a song. There are BBC programmes I would pay 79p, 99p to listen to or to watch or whatever, and that would be fine. I'd be happy to do that. There's a great programme on Radio 4 called Last Word, which is an obituaries programme I really enjoy listening to the podcasts of, for example. I would happily pay for that if I didn't have to pay the licence fee. I mean, are there programmes you would pay for on the BBC?
Yeah, a lot of the time, you'd go to UK TV, don't you? And then you can see all those BBC programmes, which the BBC are getting revenue for.
Yes.
So they're already on a subscription model there, in that respect. But no, I was just going to say, they rejected the subscription model because not enough people would pay. Well, that speaks its own truth, doesn't it? And as regards, the proposal to put on the council tax, I'm dead against that, because at the moment I can opt out of paying the licence fee. I never watch live TV.
That's a very good point, actually. Yeah, that's a very good point.
It's a regressive tax which will just continue. It's the squeezed middle again, isn't it?
Well, absolutely, and people who are not even the middle, who have even less money, have to pay this every year. Ian, thank you very, very much indeed. Ian in Bridge End. Claire is in Suffolk and wants to talk about the TV licence fee, I think, as well. Claire, you're very welcome to the programme. Good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, Peter. Lovely to speak to you. I think you're a top bloke.
Oh, thank you, Claire.
I just want to say about the licence fee. I mean, I'm someone that doesn't, doesn't have much money, have to use a food larder to support myself. I'm worrying about paying, like keeping myself warm and paying my roof over my head and things like that. The last thing on my mind is my TV licence. And the fact that they can actually send you to prison for it as well, it just blows my mind. I mean, I just think that's so out of order. They can't carry on in this way where they're making us... Like, I've got a friend in America, and when I explained the situation, they couldn't believe it. They just thought it was so weird.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it is weird. It's now going to go up as well, Claire, to about 170 quid a year. And even if you pay that monthly, it's still a chunk out of what you have. And you're telling us about your financial position. What do you think would be a fair way to do it, Claire? What do you think? How do you think it should work?
I don't know. I mean, if you look at, I know you said Channel 4 ain't doing too well, but I mean, I'm thinking to myself, like, have advertising. Have advertising, and that way we don't have to pay it, because that's how all the other ITV gets by like that, doesn't it? You know, Channel 4 and all the rest of them. So, you know, if we have to put up with a few annoying adverts, then so be it.
Yeah, and it would reduce the price for everybody. Claire, thank you for your call. Really appreciate it, and I wish you well and happy Christmas, and thanks for your kind thoughts there as well. Lots of people have been in touch on many issues, including the licence fee, but also in regard to asylum. Mike in York says, Peter, great show, thanks. Your caller from Belfast is absolutely spot on. The asylum system is being gamed by savvy players, and we can all see it. The UK government know that people have had enough. We're obviously being taken for a ride by chancers, and it hurts to see our elected representatives apparently not interested in putting our interests above those of new illegal arrivals. Mike, what a brilliant text. I think you speak for a lot of people who are compassionate, reasonable people who have had enough of this particular issue. John is in Braintree. John has given me a call on 0344 499 1000. John, you're very welcome to the programme. What would you like to say?
Yes, good afternoon, Peter.
Hi
Thank
there.
you for taking the call. Right, the Rwanda situation. Clearly, it's intended to act as a deterrent, and you asked for people to phone in that thought it was a good idea.
Yes.
It's a brilliant idea if it's used correctly, and I've got a solution to how this can be used.
Go for it.
So, assuming the government at some stage is deciding to send the very first person there, what the government do is make an announcement that the first 300 people to cross in small boats, the first 300 will be the people that will go under.
That's a good idea.
I can't imagine many coming across.
No matter what. Yeah, that's a really interesting idea, John. I haven't thought about that before. There will be a number of those people who... Yeah, well, actually, no, I don't see a flaw in the plan. I'm trying to find one and I can't find it. John, that's a really good point. And you think that would work?
Well, I can't imagine what anyone wanting to be amongst the first 300, knowing categorically they were off to Rwanda. Now, if it didn't stop the boats and the people come, clearly Rwanda is not a deterrent.
Yeah. Really good points, John. That's a really good thought. No one suggested that to me before. So thank you very much, John in Braintree.